Do we love it? Do we hate it? Are we bored of it?
Boring.
Maybe a combination of all of the above. The thing with chicken is on its own, it can be pretty bland, pretty boring, dry. It's also not super cheap to buy these days, so when you go out and buy it and then you cook it and it's not good, it's pretty disappointing. The good thing about chicken is that it is super macro friendly, especially chicken breast. Super high in protein and low in fat, which gives you a lot of room for flexibility to kind of play around with it and actually make some great tasting meals out of it. Question is, how do we do that? Well, here are my 5 tips on making chicken great again.
Sensational.
Tip number 1, salt and fat. Pretty obvious when you're cooking any sort of bland protein like chicken, especially chicken breast, you're gonna need to season the crap out of it. Salt and pepper are your best friends. Be generous with your seasoning to make sure you get that flavor in. However, also think about changing up the salt you're using. Now at home, you might just have regular kosher salt, table salt, sea salt, some Himalayan salt, and that'll do just fine. But if you want to get a little bit fancier and play around with flavor a little bit more, you can invest in some really good flavored, smoked, or seasoned salts. And I've got some go-tos that I absolutely love with any protein, not just chicken. There's a company here in Vancouver, BC that does some really amazing smoked and flavored salts, and they're called the Salt Dispensary. The one I'm holding here is a blue cheese salt, but they've got a whole bunch of different kinds for different kinds of proteins. So I highly recommend the Salt Dispensary if you're looking for some flavored or smoked salts. Another one of my favorite salts is a truffle salt. I don't really have a go-to brand for this one. I just kind of pick it up wherever I find it. The Salt Dispensary actually does a truffle salt as well, but I just love that sort of mushroomy truffle flavor without adding actual truffle, because that's hella expensive.
Damn.
Or without adding like a truffle oil, because that might be a bit too strong. We're gonna talk about oils though in a second, but truffle salt, so great. A bit of that added truffly salty goodness. Oils, very similar to your salts. You can buy these seasoned or smoked, and it just gives that added bit of flavor that you need for that bland protein. With chicken, you're probably going to cook with an oil anyways, otherwise it's gonna be bone dry. Why not use a flavored oil to cook with? And if you are counting your macros, you will of course be measuring and tracking your fats, but a smoked oil or a seasoned oil, there are no added calories to that. It will be the same as a regular oil that you would track. The added bonus of flavor is free. Tip number 2, make a taco.
It's Taco Tuesday!
Honestly, who does not love a taco? You can literally put anything and everything in it and it's gonna taste good. With chicken, make yourself some tacos. Get yourself your favorite tortillas. I prefer corn, but you can get, of course, flour. You can, make any sort of wrap, and that chicken is gonna be good because of the toppings you are going to put in it. Your taco is also gonna taste good because of how you season that chicken, which brings me to tip number 3, which is spice is life. So if we go back to the taco example, there's of course many spices that you can use to give it that Mexican-inspired flavor. My sort of go-to, when I just want to be real quick with it, I just make sure I'm always using paprika, garlic powder, and chipotle. And that is enough to give it sort of a Mexican vibe. Of course, if you've got other spices, great, add them in, like onion powder, cumin, oregano, whatever. If you've got the time, go all out. But aside from taco seasoning, there are a million different ways you can flavor your chicken. And I keep my spice cupboard and my seasonings stacked. I kid you not, I probably keep stocked like 10 trillion different seasonings and spices in my cabinet because you just never know how you're feeling that day. Like, what's your flavor?
Tell me what's your flavor?
I do have a couple of favorites that I like to keep stocked. One of them is a lemon and garlic seasoning, or even like a lemon pepper flavor. This one here is by Flavor God, and it just gives your chicken or your protein a sort of Greek inspired vibe. And it's just super simple because then you're not having to just squeeze tons of lemon and cut up all this garlic. Like if you're wanting to be quick with it, a little bit of lemon garlic seasoning and you're good to go. I also really love this Nashville hot chicken seasoning, which I'm embarrassed to say I am completely out of stock of right now. However, you can buy this, I think, at really any sort of specialty food store. I've found it from a couple of different brands, maybe even Amazon has it, but it is Nashville hot chicken seasoning. If you like a bit of spice and a little bit of heat and that Nashville chicken flavor, it is really, really good. So you can just season your chicken with that and you're not having to do a whole wet marinade or wet rub, and it will still give it that spice that you're looking for. Tip number 4, get saucy. I am definitely a saucy girl. I just love sauce with everything, and I will sauce the hell out of all my food.
I put that on everything.
Now the thing is, sauces can be a little bit higher in calories and higher in fats. So if you are being really strict with counting your macros, or you're actually training for a bodybuilding competition, a little goes a long way, and some sauces are not as macro friendly as others. Now, you can actually buy 0 calorie or very low calorie sauces as well, which then of course do make it macro friendly. However, they are still all trackable, so you can still just take a look at that label and make sure you're measuring and tracking it properly. And if you do have some flexibility because you're not training for a bodybuilding competition, then play around with it and still measure and track, but remember that a little does go a long way. So one of my favorite go-tos for a no sugar added barbecue sauce is by G. Hughes. Great tasting flavor, and it is very low in calories. It's not 0 calorie, but per 2 tablespoons, it's only 10 calories. I'd also recommend investing in a really good salad dressing that is versatile. So when I'm talking a salad dressing, I'm not just talking about dressing your salad. I'm talking about using it as a marinade, a sauce, a dipping sauce. Like one that you can use for everything is gonna be your best friend when it comes to a bland protein. This one that I'm holding is actually by Trader Joe's. It's an organic toasted sesame dressing, and I have been using this on literally everything. Not just my kale and spinach bowls, but I've used it as a marinade for my chicken. When I was in a pinch and I had to just go and buy a pre-cooked rotisserie chicken, I just drizzled the crap out of it with this, and it boosted the flavor instantly. It was so good. So highly recommend a good dressing that you can use for multiple purposes. And this one by Trader Joe's is fantastic. Sauces are another thing I just keep my cupboard stocked with. I know we don't all have the cupboard space for it, but if you even just have like 4 to 5 or even 3 to 4 go-to sauces that you can kind of rotate through, that will really help with making your meals a little bit more versatile versus having them taste the same way all the time. Fun little party trick. This isn't really a sauce, but it's a liquid, so I'm gonna put this in with the sauce category here. It's liquid smoke. Have you guys ever used this? Because it's a pretty cool trick to give your meat, your protein, or really anything you're cooking a smoky, like hickory flavor without actually grilling it. It's kind of life-changing.
Magic.
This is actually what they use to make barbecue sauce with when they're not actually grilling any of the ingredients, is liquid smoke to give it that smokiness. Freaking great. You can buy it at any specialty food store. I get mine from HomeSense, weirdly enough, in the food section, and it's great. Tip number 5, cook your chicken with a little buddy.
Say hello to my little friend.
Another protein. If you've got any leftover protein from a couple days before or the night before, some day-old sausage, some shrimp, some beef, throw that in with your chicken. So just pan fry everything together, and it just gives another layer of flavor to the chicken that it needs to keep it from being bland. I happen to always have sausage in my fridge, so I've been doing these jambalaya style rice bowls with chicken and sausage, and that sausage just really kicks things up a notch in these rice bowls so that my bowl is not just sort of a one-note chicken flavor. It's now got a bit of that sausage pork taste to it, which makes it that much tastier. So highly recommend adding another protein to your chicken. And here's my little bonus tip for all of you. If you really want to boost the flavor of something bland, just chase it with alcohol. Just kidding, don't do that. Those were my 5 tips on making chicken great again. Thanks so much for watching, and if you have any suggestions on anything you want to see in the future, just comment, like, subscribe, do all the things down below, and I hope to connect with you all again soon. Stay tuned for more Macropedia content.